Today, we're gonna learn how to take better pictures with your cell phone. So let's get started. The first thing I need you to do is grab your cell phone, grab your mother, your brother, your sister, your father, and anyone, and just take a picture of them. Just take a picture of them and come right back. So I'm gonna give you a second to go do that. Okay, now that you're back, hold on to that picture. We're gonna use that towards the end of the class, but let's get started. So to take better pictures, there's some basic rules you need to follow. These rules are called the rules of composition. And they're really simple. So let's get into it. A photographer was paid to take this picture for a perfume company. And in this picture, the photographer used a couple of rules of composition. By the end of this class, you'll be able to tell me what rules the photographer used. Okay, so rule number one is not actually a rule, but I make it a rule for my kids because we need to do this. So you're trying to get an image of your subject, right? You need to simplify everything. You need to take note of everything around you and just simplify your image. It's so easy. I'm gonna show you how we do that. So to simplify is you have to clean up the trash around, make sure you don't have nobody that belong, like giving them rabbit ears in the back or whatever, stuff like that. Try to stay away from signs. You don't want anything growing out of their head. So like this young lady laying there, like this tree right here, this tree right here is like kind of distracting. Also, there was some trash right here that wasn't cleaned up, and they try to cover it up with the signature of the photographer. But yeah, just look around, make sure everything looks good before you take your picture. But one of the most important things I want you to try is try different angles. This photographer got down low to take this picture, which was very good. Sometimes you might have to stand on something to get an angle. Whatever you have to do to get the good angle, to get the shot, do it. So, like I said, the first rule, which is technically not a rule, but we're gonna call it our first rule. Our first rule is simplify. So simplify. By simplifying the image, Ross was able to concentrate the viewer attention onto the subject. The subject is the flower. He blacked out the background and it draws your eye to the flower. Now, when you see this stuff here, I'm not gonna read everything verbatim. I'm just gonna keep this to keep me on track. You guys can read it. And yeah, that's that. So with simplify, this family picture was gonna be taken indoors, but there was like a lamp in the way. There was an outlet that just bothered me. And I was like, you know what, let's go outside. And outside, even though there's trees behind them, the trees are all green. We know they're all trees. We blur it out. And now everybody focuses on the family. Okay, rule number two is called closer. There's no such thing as getting too close. All right, so let me show you an example of that. Here we go. We have a nice picture of a kid, a pond behind him. Looks pretty good, right? But let's get closer. When you get closer, you notice his freckles a little more. You see his braces. And even though he's covered, like part of his face is cut off, it still makes for a good picture. This picture's not too bad, but let's see what happens if we get closer. When you get closer, you notice the flower a little more. It's a little brought in more, so it's closer to you. It brings your eyes to it. And it's just a nicer picture, I think. So getting closer is a technique to simplify an image. See how closer helps you simplify? Okay. So like I said a few times, there's no such thing as getting too close. So this is a picture I took. I was doing a graduation. And I only had a couple of seconds to take this picture because she was walking down with her graduating class. So this is the picture I took. But when I got back and I'm looking at it, I'm editing the pictures, I noticed like I could see this guy in the background with his camera, this guy with the white shirt, you know, that draws my attention, and I don't want that. So after I edited, this is the picture I turned into the client. I mean, you can still see this guy a little bit, but I blurred out the background, and that's a decent picture right there. The third rule is the rule of thirds. The third rule of thirds. So the Fibonacci series of numbers that started being used to compose artwork dating back to Leonardo da Vinci. No, I'm just kidding. So we're not gonna go into that. That sounds like schoolwork, right? No, we're not doing that here. So the rule of thirds is super simple. I'm gonna show you. So this is when you're about to take a picture, and this grid is over your camera, right? So let me tell you right now, if you have an Android, if you have an Apple, it doesn't matter. You go to your settings and you make sure your grid is on. So that way you can always use the rule of thirds, okay? So anyway, the rule of thirds simply cuts the frame into thirds. So I'm pointing at the screen instead of using a mouse. Anyway, so here we go. This is one, oops, hold on. This line right here and this line right here cuts it into three. 1, 2, 3. And then you do it again. This line right here cuts it into three. 1, 2, 3. So you got 3 across, you have 3 across, and you have 3 down. Now, with the rule of thirds, you want your subject to be where the lines intersect. So you want your subject to be here, 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 or here, right? But that's not the only thing with the rule of thirds. You don't only have to have it right here. You can have it close to here and it'll be right. Or you can have it on this line or this line. Or you can have it on this line or this line. So the rule of thirds is really, you have a lot to work with. You have the lines, you can have your subject on the line. Or you can have your subject where the lines intersect. Let me show you an example. Okay, this picture was used, in this picture, the rule of thirds was used. But I have a question for you. What was the first thing you noticed when you saw this picture? And since this is a recording, I can't hear what you're saying. But for you out there, if you did say eyes, if the first thing you noticed was her eyes, I'm gonna show you why the first thing you noticed were her eyes. Because her eyes are on one of the third lines. See right here. And see, her eye doesn't meet exactly where the lines intersect, but it's close enough that the rule of thirds work for this picture. She's also on one of the third lines, the third line that goes up and down. So she's on this third line and she's on this third line, and her eye is close to where the lines intersect. So this is the rule of thirds. And let me show you how the rule of thirds could be used more than one way. So right here, you have the shoreline on this line right here. And then you have the sunset on this horizontal line. The sun is right where the two lines intersect, so that's great. And this plant is going up the third line right here. Not exactly, because this is not really on the line, but overall, it's on this third line. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4 rules of third used in this one picture. So this is a great picture. What's the first thing you notice in this picture? Okay, if you guys said hat or eyes, you would be correct. You know what? Even if you said lips, if you notice his lips first, you would be correct, but I'm gonna show you why. Okay, so here we go. You have his eyes fall on this third line, his lips fall on this third line, and his hat is there too. So, you know, if you said hat or eyes, you got it right. If you said lips, I accept it. But hat and eyes is right there on the line, and it's great. Okay, so that's the first 3 rules. So we have simplify, just watch your surroundings, make sure everything looks good. Closer, get closer to your subject and make the picture pop. and the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is, cut the screen into threes and work on the lines or work where the lines intersect. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, rule number 4 is leading lines. Leading lines are used to make the viewer follow a pathway across your image. So if you're not using the rule of thirds and you have a person in the corner, you might want to use leading lines that make your eyes go towards that corner. You'll see in a minute. You can even use leading lines to make your viewer follow the pathway to your subject, what I just said. So you know what? Let me just go to it instead of reading it to you, because you can read that for yourself. So in this picture, the little flower girl is the subject. Now, our leading lines is going down this pathway. It draws your eyes to the girl. Like even here, like it draws you to the center of the picture, which is the little girl, the little flower girl. Let's do another one. This picture is really dark, but it takes you down to this. This is what I guess would be the subject for this one. This one is dark, so we're gonna go to the next one. All right, so this one, the person wants you to look over here and they're going down. The leading lines are going down to where all the lights is over here. But the next picture I have is like one of the perfect ones that I want to show you. So what would be the leading lines on here? If anybody said the banister, you'll be correct. So you have the banister coming down to her. Then you also have it going up to her here. Wait 1 second. Okay, wait, there we go. Going up to her. Also the handrail is going up to her and also coming down to her. And she's the subject. She's what you want, the image that you want. She's the subject that you want everybody to pay attention to. Let's go to the next one. So, let me show you. This one is not that good. This picture is blown out, so there's too much sun over here, right? But still the rules apply. So let me show you. So if we put the rule of thirds up, she's in kind of like the rule of thirds, but also we have these lines that lead to her, like right here, follow this line right here. I think there should be a line here because you follow this up and it goes to her. Oh, see, there we go. Line up, this line down, this line down, this line down. It all leads you to your subject, and that's what you want. You want the person to look at your subject. Anybody notice the leading lines in this picture? Okay, so we have this line here. We have this line here, this line here, this line, this line. We even have these lines, but you have this line going up. And there you go. You have the line going up, this line coming down, this line right here, this line right here. So the next rule, the rule of conversion lines. Conversion lines and leading lines are almost the same thing, but it's a little different. Conversion line converge on one point, which makes the viewer focus on that same point. It's the same kind of thing, but you'll see the difference in a minute. So conversion lines, so this is a train track, and you have this going down, and it's all converging on this one point right here. But like leading lines, you have like other lines coming in as well. Convergent lines have these lines that go and make you go to one point. So look, all these lines that make you look at the subject. You have this line here, that's the train track. We have the gravel here. We have, what is that? I have no idea what this is, but it leads to her. We have the horizon leads to her. And they have her perfectly framed in right where all the lines meet or converge. Let me go back for a second. So they have all the lines perfectly meet with where she's at. So all the lines converging onto her. So next rule is, rule number 6 is framing. Framing is a simple technique where you form borders around 2 or more sides of your subject using existing elements found in the photo. So this picture was taken through a window that was in a door. There was a little window in the door, and we had one of the groommen, and he was standing there and just took a picture, and he's framed inside this little window. That's what framing is. Real simple, right? Let's take another look at a different picture. So this is a bride, and this door, she's framed inside the door, but she's also framed inside the little, what is that? I don't know, the decoration that's on the door. I don't know what that's called. Can't think of the name of it right now. But anyway, this also, those are just look like the rule of thirds, these lines. I remind you the rule of thirds. That's, yeah. So we have her, this time we didn't have her here because her face will be in the way, like this will be in the way of her face. So we used framing. We framed her inside the door, but we also framed her inside the decoration of the door. And it came out pretty nice. How would this be framing? I can't hear you guys, but if you said she's framed inside this, like this is blurred out because it's too close. So it's blurry, or the background could be very blurry. You'll learn how to do that later. But yeah, she's framed inside the trees and the bushes. So this is considered framing. But do you notice another technique used here? You have leading lines, because we have this line right here that leads to her, this line down, this line up, the handrail down to her. It all leads to your subject. So objects used for framing: windows, doors, branches, archways, tunnels. All these things can be used to frame a subject. This is another demonstration of framing. This young lady was looking at him through the doorway, and I decided to take the picture of her looking at him through the doorway, and I'm framing her with the little window that's in the door. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next set of slides. Rule number 7 is the circle. This is a rule that breaks the rule. When properly applied and on the right subject, it can be a powerful tool to employ composition. Be careful on how you apply it. This rule is a little difficult to get, but once you get it, the pictures can come out nice. I don't use it that often. I use it once in a while, but let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is, you might look at this and say that this is closer or simplified, which you will be right. You're getting closer and you're simplifying the image because you only have the flower in frame. But this is bringing your eye to the middle because of the circle that it makes. So this is bringing your attention right here to the center of the rows. And let me go to the next one. You see the circle brings your attention there. That was a real simple one. Next to the rule. The next rule is rule number 8 is rhythm. Rhythm have to do with repetition of an element. It could be in descending order, but it's not always the case. It could always go the opposite way as well. But let me show you what I'm talking about. So for this picture, we had the bride stand here, the groom stand here, because they had these pillars. And we thought we would get them going in the pillars, and the pillars are going low. As you go further away, the pillars are getting smaller. So that's what rhythm is. It's like boom, pillar, empty space, pillar, empty space, pillar, empty space. And we use that to take this picture. So if you get real close to these pictures, you see, you can see the rhythm in this picture. It's just a whole bunch of statues stacked together, lined up. And then this is just a piece of cloth, and it's just the texture in the cloth, the rhythm, like boom, 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 and the rhythm, boom, 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 boom. Look at the rhythm of this. You have the wine glasses in order, and then they're pouring it into the last one. I just love the rhythm in this, the wine glass one behind the other. This picture I took in Paris, and I just was amazed by these statues. And actually, when I took this picture, I wasn't even thinking about rule of thirds. I was just amazed. And when I got home and I looked at it, I was like, oh, I used a rhythm. And the rhythm is like the statues just going in descending order, like boom, 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 going down. And this picture, I didn't even edit this picture or anything. I just used it. That's straight out of camera. Okay, rule number 9, negative space. Negative space gives a subject a feeling of being alone. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So you have all this space over here, and you just have this is your subject right here. So it makes it feel like it's alone because you have all this empty space, all this negative space. This was taken by a photographer. I believe they were on a train, and they took this picture. I just like the negative space. Like you just get a little glimpse of the shack over the water, and you just have mostly gray. It's just a gray day. Next picture. This is a beautiful picture of negative space. So you have all this blue, all this beautiful blue, and then where's your subject? It's right here in the corner. It's just tiny, and it feels like lonely little flowers by themselves. And this is a perfect example of negative space. Look at this. This is another great example of negative space. You have all this white, just a white picture. Like, where's the subject? You don't even see the whole subject, but we all know what this is, right? We all know this is an apple. But it just seemed lonely because you have all this negative space. Same thing here. We have lady on a balcony. We have all this blue sky. And she just seemed lonely there with all this space over here, looking out into nothing, into everything. Who knows what she's looking onto. I remember this. I took this picture. I just love taking pictures of the moon. I don't know. The moon is probably one of my favorite subjects. That was the sky. It was just so empty, and the moon was just the only thing there. And this is like the perfect picture of negative space. It's like you have the little moon. Well, the moon is not that little, but it looks so little compared to all this space that you have. And that's it. That's the last rule. Ooh, let's see, negative space. Yes, that's the last rule. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna have a quiz. And don't worry, it's not a quiz that you have to be worried about like you were in school. This is fun. 1 second. Okay. So what rule is this? Is it closer? Is it the rule of thirds? Is it leading lines, or is it rhythm? Whoever said A or closer, you're correct. This is closer. I know I have simplify, but I told you, you can have more than one rule. So this is, you could, if you said, you know what, if you said simplify, I'll give you credit for that as well. So if you said closer, or if you said simplify, you get extra credit. How about that? Okay, let's go to the next one. What rule is this? Is it rhythm? Is it leading lines? Is it rule of thirds, or is it circle? If you said C or leading line or the rule of thirds, you're correct. These are the rule of thirds because his eye is on this third line and on this third line. Okay, next one. What rule is this? Is it A, negative space, B, framing, C, simplify, or D, conversion lines? Give you a second. If you said B, framing, you would be correct because she's framed inside the window in the door. What rule is this? Is it A, leading lines, B, conversion lines, C, the rule of thirds, or D, negative space? If you said D, negative space, you would be correct. But I'm gonna give you a bonus. If someone said the rule of thirds, I will give you partial credit because this will be like, if you cut this into thirds, that would be the line, that would be the line, and a line here, line here. So it would be on the third line here and the third line here. So if you said C or D, you're correct. What rule is this? A, simplify, B, closer, C, circle, D, framing. If you said A, simplify, you're correct. If you said B, closer, you're correct. If you said C, circle, you're correct. I'll give you credit for that. Framing, somebody might say framing, but we're not framing it in anything. Like, this is just the space. So no, framing, we're not going to give you credit for that one. Sorry. What rule is this? A, the rule of thirds, B, framing, C, circle, D, leading lines. If you said D, leading lines, you would be correct. Now let me show you how the leading lines. So you have this line going down to her, this line going down to her, the steps that she's on going up to her. These lines on the wall coming down, and then the bricks, the lines come down to her. Again here. So leading lines, this one would be leading lines. What rule is this? Is this A, framing, B, conversion lines, C, closer, D, rhythm? Oh, sorry. If you said D or rhythm, you were correct. Because you have the statues and the rhythm going down. What rule is this? A, rule of thirds, B, simplify, C, closer, D, LOL dolls. If you said D, LOL dolls, you're correct. No, I'm just joking. This will be simplify and is also closer. So remember, you can have more than one. And this is one of the students in the class. She had these pretty green eyes, and her sister, she has a twin sister. Her twin sister took this picture. What rule is this? Is it A, bubble gum? Is it B, framing? Is it C, leading lines? Is it D, negative space? If you said B, you'd be correct. This is framing, because she used, her sister used, I believe this is Downy. So she used paper towels to frame her sister inside this picture. What rule is this? Is this A, circle, B, My Little Pony, C, rule of thirds, or D, rhythm? Okay, those who said C, rule of thirds, you'll be correct. If you break this picture into three, one line will be here, one line will be about here, and you have one line around here and one line about there. So her eyes, this eye will probably be where the two lines converge. And like I said, boom, this line, and she's on this line. So that will be the rule of thirds. How did you do with the quiz? Did you do well? If you didn't do well, you can always watch the video again and try to get a better score on the quiz. But this is what I want you to do now. I want you to grab your cell phone and take a picture of whoever you took a picture of earlier. Remember when I told you to take a picture in the beginning? Go take a picture of the same person, but this time I want you to use one of the rules. One of the rules you learned today. If you want, you could use more than one rule. Actually, you could use all the rules. That would be awesome. And after you take the picture, I want you to compare the picture. I want you to ask people, I want you yourself, which picture looked better? The picture you took when you didn't know anything, you just took a picture, or the picture you took after you learned the rule and used the rule? So make sure you apply the rule to the second picture and ask people which picture they like better. They like the picture you took the first time or the picture you took using one of the rules, okay? All right, so for this part of the class, that's it. So I'm gonna stop the video here and there will be another video shortly.